Welcome back, viewers, to the latest researches and news. We have a major new development on the Ethiopia Sudan border. Firstly, about Rapid Support Forces and Sudanese People's Liberation Movement forces have launched a new offensive from Ethiopian territory, captured Qaysan town in Blue Nile state, and this fight is happening dangerously close to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Secondly, about heavy fighting around the Mshawafa military camp. Confirmed reports that Rapid Support Forces and their Sudanese People's Liberation Movement allies operating under the Thesis coalition have captured Qaysan town in Sudan's Blue Nile state, right on the border with Ethiopia's Benishangul Gumuz region. We have received videos from Rapid Support Forces fighters confirming the capture. But it is not just the capture of a town that matters today. It is where this town sits and what lies nearby. Let us explain what has happened and why the location makes this different from previous fighting in the Blue Nile area. Rapid Support Forces and Sudanese People's Liberation Movement forces moved from the Esosa area in Ethiopia's Benishangul Gumuz region, passing through Menge and heading toward Shekole. Rather than crossing the Tumat River at Shekole, as might have been expected, they took an alternative route and entered Sudan near Qaysan, a town on the Blue Nile state border with Ethiopia. Qaysan has now been captured. Videos from Rapid Support Forces fighters confirm control of the town. Sudanese Armed Forces aligned sources claim the attack was repelled, but reports from people with direct access to the area indicate that Rapid Support Forces remain in control and that heavier fighting only began when they attempted to push further north beyond Qaysan. Here is the strategic concern that makes this particular offensive more alarming than the earlier Kumuk battles. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, Ethiopia's massive hydroelectric project on the Blue Nile, at the center of the Ethiopia-Egypt water dispute, sits in this broader region. The Kumuk fighting was at a considerable distance from the dam. The latest movement through the Qaysan route brings the active conflict zone significantly closer to the dam's location. Fighting in close proximity to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam would not only be militarily dangerous, it would be a catastrophic regional flashpoint. The dam is not just an Ethiopian infrastructure project. It is a point of contention for Egypt, Sudan, and the entire Nile basin. Any military activity near it risks elevating a border conflict into something with far wider international dimensions. Residents in parts of Benishangul Gumuz on the Ethiopian side of the border are already reporting that they can hear gunfire, explosions, heavy weapons, and drone activity from across the border. The fighting is not distant. It is audible from Ethiopian territory. Beyond Qaysan itself, the fighting has developed around the Mshawafa military camp, described as a major Sudanese armed forces position in the area. Rapid Support Forces conducted a series of drone strikes against the Mshawafa camp. Under that drone and ground pressure, Sudanese armed forces and allied forces reportedly withdrew from their positions at the camp. Rapid Support Forces are said to now hold a stronger position around the camp, though the situation remains fluid. The Rapid Support Forces offensive in this area is also using a more capable force than previous engagements. Sources report that fighters have been deployed with mechanized vehicles equipped with rocket systems and armored or personnel carrier type vehicles, giving them significantly greater mobility and firepower than lightly armed units. This is a better equipped, better organized push than the Blue Nile area has previously seen from the Rapid Support Forces. One additional element that is a possibility but not confirmed. There are reports that Simido-aligned forces may have been moving from Domazin toward the Qaysan area on the Sudanese side. If accurate, the Rapid Support Forces and Sudanese People's Liberation Movement offensive may have been partly timed to disrupt or preempt that movement, using the offensive as a way to block Sudanese armed forces, aligned forces, from advancing toward the Ethiopian border zone. This remains unconfirmed. The next 24 to 48 hours on this front carry significant weight, and several questions are now critical. Can Sudanese armed forces retake Qaysan and Shawafa? If Khartoum cannot reverse these gains quickly, it may consider escalating its military response, including the possibility of air or drone strikes against Rapid Support Forces positions near the Ethiopian border. Here is the risk that matters most. If Sudan concludes that Ethiopian territory is being used to support Rapid Support Forces operations, which is increasingly difficult for Addis Ababa to deny, given the route taken through Asosa and Mengi Sudanese authorities could decide to strike near the Ethiopian border. That decision would bring the conflict directly onto Ethiopian soil. If that happens, it would not simply be a border incident. It would be the beginning of direct military confrontation between Ethiopia and Sudan. Two countries already managing internal wars would find themselves in a new external conflict with each other. The broader regional consequence is also significant. If Ethiopia continues to be held responsible for Rapid Support Forces operations launched from its territory, Sudan has incentives to respond by increasing its support for Ethiopian opposition groups, the Tigray Defense Forces, Fano-linked elements, or others. That would further deepen the interconnection between Ethiopia's internal conflict and Sudan's civil war. For now, Rapid Support Forces hold Qaysan. Shawafa is contested. The dam is within the broader zone of active fighting. And the border between Ethiopia and Sudan has never been more volatile. The capture of Qaysan by Rapid Support Forces launched from Ethiopian territory has brought the Blue Nile conflict dangerously close to the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Drone strikes have hit Sudanese armed forces positions. Sudanese forces have withdrawn from Shawafa. Mechanized Rapid Support Forces units are holding their gains. Ethiopian border residents can hear the explosions. The next 24 hours will determine whether Khartoum can reverse these gains or whether it escalates its response in ways that directly target Ethiopian territory. Either path carries consequences for the entire region. We will keep monitoring and reporting every development as it emerges. Like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update.